Untitled.com. And this live is basically answering some questions that I get on my email and on the YouTube comments. And thank you for all the beautiful comments. I absolutely love them. So let's try and understand a few things about why we need to get an astrological reading. Okay. So oftentimes you will see that no matter how much effort you take, no matter what you do, things keep going wrong. Okay, and inherently, if you keep your ego aside, you will see that more than not, it's not your fault, but things do happen, and oftentimes there becomes a vicious cycle. Okay, in many cases, yes, it is self-sabotage, but also in many cases it is not, when there's a genuine problem that's going on. Okay, so here I will try to explain to you why certain things happen because of astrology. Okay, so each planet has a particular signification. Okay, for instance, the moon is the mother, the moon can be the wife, the moon is, all your emotions, how you emote, how you interact with your emotions. So the key to the first thing that you experience when you have astrological difficulties is weak planets. Okay, what do I mean by weak planets? So there is a concept of exaltation. Of course, there's a concept of rulership, domicile rulership. For instance, Mars rules Aries. Okay, so Mars in Aries placement is always going to be powerful. Why? Because Mars is the ruler of Aries. Okay, now according to the triplicity system, we know that a sign is broken up into three of the same element. Okay, so the first sign, the first decan of Aries belongs to Mars. So if you're born within the 1 to 10 degrees of Aries, then you are not only ruled by Mars through domicile, you're also ruled by Mars through decan. Okay, so for instance, you are an Aries rising and you have your ascendant degree at about 4 degrees. Okay, so that makes you very Martian. So you look to Mars in your astrology, in your natal chart, to see why why you're not feeling the correct energies of Aries, why you're not tuning into the correct vibration of Aries. For instance, if you have a Saturn retrograde in a ninth chart, in say Mars rules Scorpio, okay, and then you've got that Mars in detriment, okay, say, or Mars in fall, say for instance, you've got Mars in Cancer, and you've got this Saturn retrograde as well in your first house, which is Scorpio. Then you may experience problems with the classic Saturnine, like the father or legal issues, or the systems, the hierarchies. So this is what you need to look at: weak planets. Okay, for instance, Saturn is exalted in Libra. Okay, Saturn rules Capricorn, Saturn rules Aquarius. Saturn's just a bit more comfortable because Aquarius is diurnal. So this is where Saturn really, really feels connected. So Saturn is domicile ruler of these two, Capricorn, Aquarius, and is exalted in Libra. So the fall of Saturn immediately is Aries. So when you have Saturn in Aries, then it is a debilitated planet. Okay, it's a planet in fall. So it's really a this is something you need to understand with regards to planets. Okay, weak planets and how they may affect you. For instance, if you do Vedic astrology and you've got a dasha or a Mahadasha or an Antardasha of a particular planet that's malefic, then you will really feel it. Even in Hellenistic astrology, if you are in an annual profection year of a particular planet that's malefic for you, you will feel it differently. So there are also planets that are, happier in a day chart, and some planets are happier in a night chart. Jupiter and Saturn are happier in a day chart, whereas Mars and Venus are happier in a night chart. So all of this has to be taken into consideration when you're looking at weak planets. Okay, this is the first thing an astrologer looks for in a natal chart. To, yes, we look at exaltations, we look at rulerships, we look at decan rulerships, all of that. But why do we look at weak planets? It's because weak planets tell us the saga a bit better, because a planet in exaltation is powerful, but it's not like an exalted planet will only give good benefits. We do not see that a Venus in a Pisces only gives good benefits. No. Okay. Oftentimes this is the case. Or will a Jupiter in Cancer always give good benefits to the family and the home? No. So we do not look at exaltations. We ascertain exaltations later. We look to weak planets, planets that are afflicted, planets that are debilitated, planets that are unable to express their complete potential. And then we also look at badly placed planets, okay? And that is like if a planet is placed on the cusp of an angular house. Okay, a planet is extremely active then. And Kendra, for instance, Mars in the fourth house, Kendra, is considered very Mangalic. Okay, even Mars in the first house, Kendra, the cusp of first house is afflicted. Okay, so like that, I also spoke about debilitated planets, accidental debility. So if a planet is placed in the sixth house, or if a planet is placed in the eighth house, or if a planet is placed in the 12th house, then a planet by itself is debilitated. Okay, so even if it is, for instance, the sun in Leo, okay, and the sun is in the 12th house, the sun is debilitated. Now go one further, and the sun, and this is a night chart. So the sun, also being a diurnal planet, does not do particularly well in a night chart. So immediately you are like looking at it and you're like, okay, the sun significations are going to be depressed. Okay. Anytime you see sun underneath the ascendant point, it's a it's always going to be like okay, things are hidden, things are behind the surface, okay, beneath the surface. It's not always easily ascertainable as to the significations of the sun, right? Then we look at badly placed planets, and we also look at afflicted planets. Now, afflicted planets are very interesting. For instance, if there's a conjunction with a malefic, like for instance, there's a conjunction with Saturn or Mars or even Uranus, then a planet gets afflicted. For instance, if the planet is combust, okay, I'll make a separate video on combustion, but understand that if a planet is close to the sun, especially in the same sign and house, I use whole sign houses. So then you will see that a planet gets badly afflicted. And then you immediately know that this planet is unable to act out and do what it needs to do, right? So this is a key point in looking at badly placed planets, a planet at an angular cusp, or a planet that is, even afflicted planets could be fixed star connections. Okay, connections with fixed stars that are malefic, or even with Uranus, or even with Neptune or Pluto, a planet gets afflicted. Okay, now Venus is known to be benefic, the lesser benefic, Jupiter the greater benefic, but oftentimes a conjunction with them could also signal trouble. Okay, a too much of. With Jupiter, it's always about expansion, so it's like too much of. Okay, so there's always that balance that needs to be maintained. So also planets that are optimally functional may sometimes get incorrect planetary rays and may give negative results. Okay, as I said, exalted planets, yes, they very much can give negative results. And the same thing goes for planets in fall. That if you balance a karma of that planet in fall will function in a different way. Okay, so it's only, of course, after much soul growth, much soul evolution does that happen. You need to become aware of the shadows of that archetype, and then you need to go from there. So predictive astrology is a completely different technique. Natal astrology is a completely different technique. So now also another thing to look at when problems keep happening in your life and you're not sure what to do, get an astrological reading. Why? Because you need to know if there are prolonged transits, okay, that are basically afflicting your weak natal planets. So if you've got a weak Saturn and there's a transit to Saturn, then you're going to really feel it. Or if it's an annual profection of Saturn, say wherever Capricorn Aquarius falls in your chart. So that is something to look at. Prolonged transit afflictions to weak planets. Okay, weak planets can be further debilitated, further afflicted if no remedy is applied, or if it's all right to get an astrological chart and then okay, I'm having going to have this problem and then forget it. So when the problem comes, okay, you're aware. Yes, you've concentrated. You've brought that consciousness and observed. So yes, you've created an observer's paradox, but you need to actively engage, and this is called Kriya Shakti. When you take action, this is Mars. So you need to take action to better those rays that you're getting afflicted with. Okay, if a planet is weak, it does not mean that a planet will forever give you weak or afflicted results or bad results or negative results. No, it's up to you to change the destiny of that planet. And as funny as it may sound, but you and the planet need to work together. For instance, when Saturn was moving into Aquarius, I was extremely apprehensive and yet so excited. Why? Because I felt what Saturn, the diamond, the soul of Saturn was feeling. And coming back to this eccentric zone after 29 or 30 years, there was an anxiety and so much is going on, and Saturn's like, "Hey, what am I going to do? What race am I going to bring forth? Will it go well? Will I be able to give humanity the correct race?" Because every jiva or every atma is actually connected to Paramatma, the source of everything. Astrology is based on the science of karma. You reap what you sow. So your natal chart is actually a reflection of what you've done in your last life. And oftentimes your natal chart can predict extremely bizarre things about you, whether psychologically or in a predictive manner, that okay, you're gonna get this job and you really get that job, or you're gonna have an accident and you really have an accident, or you're gonna get a divorce and you really get a divorce. Okay, it also oftentimes can predict things like marriage, things like things like marriage, things like romance. Is someone going to come into your life? All of that can also be predicted. Now, if for instance you have a weak Venus, and then there's a prolonged Saturn transit to your Venus, and your Venus is further debilitated. So does that mean that you surrender to, to forget earning any money, forget love, forget marriage? I'm just going to forget it because I've got this transit, this extremely excruciating transit of Saturn to my already weak Venus. So I can't do anything about it, right? So Venus in Gemini, yeah, Venus is very afflicted in Gemini. Why? It's simply because Venus is nocturnal and Gemini is diurnal, and Venus is cold and moist, and Gemini is dry. And although it's air, it's actually moist because it's air. So there's always going to be that connection with it. It's not as bad as say Sagittarius, because then Venus is in fall in Virgo. But Venus does own one of Virgos. Venus owns the third decan of Virgo by triplicity. Okay, by Taurus triplicity. So the first decan of Virgo belongs to Mercury, and the second decan of Virgo is Capricorn triplicity, so it belongs to Saturn. And the third decan belongs to Venus, mix of Libra triplicity. And then, of course, you further break them up into terms to truly ascertain which planet is working in what way, right? So that's very important to understand. Now, another thing that can cause much pain in our mortal lives is the transit of slow planets, right? Slow moving planets are the nodes, Rahu and Ketu. They stay 2 years and 7.5 months or 9 months in each sign. They take about 19 years to go around the zodiacal wheel. Okay, so Rahu Ketu Jupiter again takes 12 years, right? And Saturn, so Saturn takes 29 years, right? So we are not even really counting Uranus and Neptune or Pluto transits, because uh, they are, of course, more generational, as many astrologers have pointed out. I also agree. They're very generational, but I mean, I use traditional rulerships, right? But Uranus being the ruler of my sixth, with Uranus movements, I always tend to feel something in my health, or something with regards to my fur babies, because sixth house is also fur companions. So, I mean, it feels quite real when it comes to Uranus, exerting a very powerful, almost a necrotizing grip on Aquarius. But I always give rulership of Aquarius to Saturn. Now, also understand that Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury, and Saturn and Mercury are considered friendly planets. So, there's always a story threaded in the midst to truly understand the energetic vibration. Everything is about planetary rays. Everything. Okay, how you live your life, what's coming to us as a collective. It's what we are channeling as a collective, as individuals, the planetary rays. Okay, and these planetary rays come from the fixed stars, and Saturn brings them down and gives them to Venus. And that's why Saturn Kronos castrated Uranus and gave birth to Aphrodite. Venus being our five senses through which we experience reality. So there is this profound understanding the ancients had, that the energy was coming down from the fixed stars via Saturn. The rings of Saturn encompassed all of human thought. Does that mean that we haven't gone beyond the solar system? Haven't we gone beyond the Hubble? We've gone to Hubble Deep Field, which is like crazy megaparsecs away. So it's like the human thought has expanded. Just like they discovered that yes, the universe was accelerating, but suddenly something came along and increased that acceleration by like uh, thousands of times. So the universe is now ever expanding. And very soon we are going to enter not very soon, I mean, billions of years later, we will enter a degenerate era where light is just going to be eaten away and the whole universe disperses further and further away. So then light does not come into the solar system anymore. And after that, the degenerate era, we will have the black hole era. And ultimately, the cessation of the universe. So it's everything that is coming to the solar system through the rays of Saturn. Saturn is acting like a ginormous sieve. Even if you look at the rings of Saturn, they remind you of a sieve, a strainer almost. Something that's straining all of these rays and then imparting it to Venus. And Venus is actually, according to esoteric astrology and the occult text, Venus is Ushana Shukra, one of the most elevated beings of the solar system. So Venus is then again, in a more gross sense, becomes the five senses. And Venus takes the message of Saturn, which is ultimately coming to us from the fixed stars, and ultimately she's translating it with the liaison of the moon. Of course, the moon is very, very connected. Without the moon, there would be no life. So it's like when you look at a bad transit, you have to understand that the planetary rays are not coming to you correctly. It's your vibration. It's not some blame, self-blame or self-hate. It's understanding that, okay, this needs optimization. This needs more efficiency in the way, I need to look at it in a more efficient way to optimize it. So what do? Simple. Okay, it's not that you are in some sense unable to get the raise because of some fault of your own. No, it's not a beat yourself up game. It's you identifying that, okay, this is happening. And like I said, exalted planets don't always have to give amazing results. Okay, in fact, Venus in Pisces is possibly prone to PCOS or sleep disorders or alcohol issues or even drugs. They could be serial marriers because of that fantasy that they live in. So, you've got to understand that an astrologer is here to cut away at what's negative, okay? And can we cut away at what's negative? No, because this is a world of duality in a sense. But we identify the negative. Okay, this is a difficult placement. Okay, this is a debilitated planet. This is an afflicted planet. Oh, this is a tough zone for that planet to be in, right? And then we understand, right? Having Saturn in malefic houses can be a problem, and a retrograde Saturn. Now, I have seen Saturn in the Kendra or angular houses give very difficult results. Okay, and sometime when the native has assimilated the karma of Saturn, then it boosts. Okay, boom. So, Saturn in the first house can be very difficult to express yourself, to find your individuality. Okay. Now, the third house is also, a bit iffy, problems with school life. Now we come to the fourth house of family foundations. Oftentimes, Saturn here would show abuse in the childhood home, neglect in the childhood home. Saturn retrograde over there, for instance, in a night chart, problems. Okay. And you'll obviously Saturn in the seventh, you just don't get married. I mean, you'd be lucky if you got married at 50. But if by chance, for chance you get married before that, you will get a divorce. So Saturn now, moving from the seventh, also 8th house is deadly dangerous. Because that, 8th house is all the things hidden. And Saturn brings the power of negentropy, which is putrefaction. It is an alchemical transformation, that sun in Saturn concept that I explained. Okay, the sunlight is all around us. So every metal has a part of gold. Okay, the Hermeticists believed in this, the Rosicrucian manifestos speak of this, Tantra speaks of this. So, so all the metals have gold. And that is what the alchemists were actually looking to. That why could lead be turned into gold is literally the negentropy of Saturn, the putrefaction of Saturn, and the transformation of the inner lead into gold. But obviously some alchemists believed that all metals had gold in it. Okay, so they were trying to extract the gold. So within Saturn is that sun, is what you need to understand when you have this. And Saturn also in the 12th house, very problematic, Saturn in the 12th house. So, you've got to look at that. And seventh house we spoke of is also open enemies in tropical astrology. That sixth house Saturn is also very difficult, health wise, work wise, everyday work, everyday, even diet wise, there could be problems related to this, to the stomach. Also, especially if that is Saturn. The ninth house is a good house. So, it's the house of God in Hellenistic astrology. Saturn is in fall in Leo. I mean, debilitated in Leo. Saturn rules Aquarius. Leo is the polarity. Saturn in the fifth. Okay, very interesting. Fifth is a very good, very benefic house. It's a house of blessing actually. It's the natural zodiacal place of Leo, and it's where Venus has planetary joy. Saturn in the fifth can result in numerous things. Attraction to an older companion. And once you are of a certain age, you attract younger mates. Very possible. Saturn in the fifth also could mean that, problems with relationships, especially romantic relationships. You also have to see if it's a day chart, then Saturn has, a bit more chance of saving you. But if it's a night chart, it's malefic. You have to see, is this a place which Saturn likes? Is this a sign Saturn likes? What if the ruling planet is Saturn is Saturn friendly to that planet, right? So, wow, night, that's a malefic, right? Saturn conjunct Mars. So significations would be difficult unless you do Saturn remedies. You can do Pandraka Yantra Mantra Om Em Rim Shrim Shanishcharaya Namaha. Om Em Rim Shrim Shanishcharaya Namaha. You can do Saturn Beach. You can do Saturn Gayatri. Every Saturday you can wear black clothes. I've got a video on how to do Saturn magic. You can draw the Saturn Yantra. Okay. So all of this is very possible to do and get the correct planetary rays. But you need to understand that just because you have a difficult planet does not mean you will always get difficult results. Just because you have a long-standing Rahu transit, it doesn't have to be all bad. Rahu is again a malefic. So Rahu and Ketu are both malefics. And now, since 20th of March, we've got a non-stop Kala Sarpa Dasha happening. And then the moon breaks the pattern every 15 days and goes out of that concentration of planets and that great compression that's happening in Aquarius. 7 planets in Aquarius, which I'm going to make a separate video on. So I'm not going to, get talking too much about that. Now, sub-periods of functional malefic planets. So as I said that in Vedic astrology, we have Mahadasha and Antardasha. So you need to understand that if you have a malefic planet like Saturn retrograde in the first house, say in Scorpio, and you've got a Saturn Mahadasha, then yeah, you're literally getting very harmful rays. Also remember, Saturn can be combust. Now, if any planet is combust or any planet is in the Via Combusta, which I said 15 degrees of Libra to 15 degrees of Scorpio, any planet in that zone is burnt out. It's Via Combusta. So if you have a compression of planets in 15 Libra to 15 Scorpio, then all of those planets are combust. They are in the path of combustion. Okay. Now, this means, thank you, this means that all these planets are afflicted. All of these, if you have a Saturn in Libra at the end of Libra, in a day chart, still that Saturn is afflicted, although that Saturn is exalted. And in a day chart. Okay. But it is still Via Combusta. This gives Pitta dosh. So immediately you need to rectify the Pitta dosh, and then you will see the Via Combusta effects begin to fade away. For instance, if you have Saturn at 19 degrees, which is the accursed degree, Serpentis, okay, then there's a problem to that, or Mars over there, right? 19 degrees of Scorpio. So it's always like that. Okay, you have to balance the planetary rays, right? Saturn, his beej is Om Prang Pring Prong Sa Shaneshcharaya Namaha. You can do this chant every day. For instance, if you are in Sadesati, what is Sadesati? If the minute Saturn enters one sign before your moon sign, you are under Sadesati rising. As it exacts, you are in Sarasati peak. As it fades away into the next sign, you are in Sarasati setting. This is 7.5 years of Saturn. Now, also, if you do Western astrology and you've got planets in Leo, if you got the Sun in Leo, Moon in Leo, anything, Saturn in Leo, then you are facing a Saturn opposition to all those planets. You have to look to the significations of all of the houses, planets, day, night. You got to understand. And then you will see, and you also have to look at the Lord of the Year. Because the Lord of the Year oftentimes has a lot more to say than normal transits. Okay? So time law technique is very effective. If you're doing Mahadasha, Antardasha, then that's one way of looking at it. And of course, looking at nakshatras is very important. Okay, very, very important. So, this is why you need to get an astrological reading if things are really hard. It's an investment you need to look at because everything is planetary rays. Everything in your life, the day I realized that, my life changed, you know. I was born in a Brahmin family, so I had my kundli done as a child. But my father gave me Linda Goodman's The Sunshine book, you know, and I got into Western astrology. So I understand how important the planets, the stars are, the celestial nakshatras and the fixed stars are. So it seems, yes, I also am from the Theosophical Alice Bailey tradition of esoteric astrology, which I think it gives a completely more rounded approach to the astrological readings. Because if you look at the soul rulers and the hierarchical rulers, you truly ascertain what's going on. For instance, Jupiter is really doing well being the sole ruler of Aquarius at this point right now. And the connection of Jupiter being the sole ruler and the Kumbh Mela, you know, I've done a video on that, so check that video out, Aquarius and the Kumbh Mela. All right. So we've understood now why you need to get an astrological reading. Okay. Now, what are the things to look at in your natal chart? Okay, you go to astro.com or wherever and you get a natal chart done. So what do you need to see? Oftentimes people send me their natal charts galore thinking that, you know, I have the time, which I really don't. Neither do I have the energy to go through all of that and give them a rounded answer. Okay, this is. No, you have to book a reading. But in this video, I will tell you what you need to look at. First thing, placement of planets. Where is your ascendant degree? Which sign is it on? What is the ascendant? The sign that is rising on the east. Okay, so that is your ascendant. First things first, not your sun sign. Okay, yeah, your moon sign, sun sign, important. There's a big three. But your ascendant and the exact degree. You look at the exact degree and then you understand which decan. You understand rulerships and which planet is the domicile ruler. Then you break it up into decan and you see which decan. And then it adds some more. Then you break it up into terms and bounds, and that adds even more. Okay, and then you go to the nakshatra, that adds even more. And then you break it up with of course you look at day chart or night chart, very important. And then you look to conjunctions and oppositions as the main two aspects. Okay, then you look at squares, very important, not always bad. Then you look at trines, not always good. Okay, sextiles, not really very powerful energy to ground. So oftentimes sextile energy is pretty wasted. Okay, squares, no, squares will bring attention through stress to what needs to be sorted and what needs to be solved. You need to always look at close conjunctions, like really exact conjunctions. Okay, wide conjunctions, great, you're getting a whiff of that energy, but you need to look at exact conjunctions, okay? Um, I don't know. I don't take Bitcoin. I've never done that, but I did make videos on Bitcoin, by the way. If you want to book a reading, just drop me an email, tina@tinaheals.com. That's the best way we can talk. So also remember that close conjunctions of planets with effective points. We've done midpoint astrology. We've spoken about that, and also cusps. Okay, important. Using whole sign houses of Placidus entirely is dependent on you again. I mean, I am also quite attracted to Placidus because there I've got that 12th house sun, which makes a lot more sense than my whole sign house 11th house sun. But that's another discussion for another time. It's like astrology is also very intuitive. It's a science, it's an art form, it's also an intuitive, interactive program with your mind, you know, as above, so below. So the stars are literally inside of you. Now, close aspects with any other planets, like I explained all the aspects and points of the house. This is what you need to look at. And then, of course, you can look at Sabian symbols, which make it really interesting. Sabian symbols, because then, of course, you have Omega symbols, Chandra symbols, and many layers of meaning you can add to that. And then another thing you can look at is the shape of your chart. Okay, does it form a bundle pattern? Does it form a bucket pattern? Does it form a seesaw pattern? And what are the archetypes associated to that pattern? For instance, with this full moon in Leo, we had the bucket pattern. All the planets and the moon in one side being the handle of the bucket. All right. So it's very interesting. And then, of course, you have to know about nakshatras and the fixed stars. And if it is the moon that you want to know, you have to know the manzil of the moon. You have to know on which manzil your moon falls, because depending on that, you will get a lot of feedback. And that was longer than I intended. Why you should get an astrological reading, why you should not ignore the difficult parts after you get an astrological reading, why you need to actively engage, participate, actively observe, and yes, actively observe and actively change. Mars, Mercury, you cogitate, you see Mars, Mars rules the eye, so you literally see this video. I cut the live, it seeps into your mind. Okay, you're cogitating, Mercury's active, all these thoughts, these neurons firing in your brain, just like galaxies are firing neurons, right? And then you need to sit with that information. All of this, rewatch the video if you've just joined. There's a lot of information. Why astrology? Honestly, why? People ask me this all the time. Elon Musk is interested in astrology. Warren Buffett said that millionaires don't need astrologers, billionaires do. So, if you want to truly understand the scope of astrology, which is not, of course, being just a billionaire, there are so many worlds to conquer, so much of consciousness expansion to do. But it's a beginning, because these stars, we are literally stardust. So not only are we studying them and learning archetypes, but they exist within us. And not just obtusely like, okay, I've got Mercury in Aries, so Mercury's in my head, or I've got Mercury's in Cancer, so Mercury's in my breast. No, you are literally made of stardust. So everything out there resonates within. So what is a better way to engage with the world, with this world's soul, then engage with the story of the stars. For the stars always have the truth. And the stars don't lie. If somebody tells you, if you think that, oh, that reading, that astrological reading was shit, no. It's because the astrologer was unable to relate a message of the stars that were coming through. It is never the fault of the stars, for the stars are equally engaged in this simulation. Imagine your own physical body. Okay, in Tantra it is said that all of the cosmos is an outpouring of the breath of Brahman, okay, or Purusha. So think of your own physical body as the ultimate Brahman, and all the little cells are tiny little galaxies and tiny little earths and tiny little civilizations. So you know that you can talk to your cells, right? You can literally interact with your cells and they listen. The feedback loop of a body is not just you waking up every morning to go and exercise, but literally your cells wake you up. If you give them 40 days of training, your cells will wake you up at a particular time to go and exercise. So it's like, the universe is like the body. It is telling us, okay, this is it, this is how it is. But the universe has already gone into the disciplinary action. So we need to interact now. So we are the cells. And here we are telling the universe, okay, Saturn is not always about taking either. That's what I tell people. That it's not about taking the correct race. I mean, and that's what I would say in a public scale, because, a lot of people are not ready to hear this. But it's not about taking. You're not here to take, you're here to give. That's why you need to resonate in the highest possible frequency, because you are not here to take from Saturn, you are here to add to Saturn. And that is when true enlightenment happens. When you say, I send you, Saturn, my energy, which I worked on, which is pure, which is ready to serve, which agrees with your archetype. And I send it to you, Saturn, for you may do the good you need to do in Aquarius. So this is it. This is the key. It's not, oh, I need the correct race of Saturn, so I need to chant the mantras and, life will be good and I'll get money and I'll get the woman of my dreams. It's you literally helping the souls evolve further and further and into different dimensions. Saturn will possibly become a black hole one day. Before that, Saturn will possibly become a solar system. Even before that, he'll become the sun. Saturn was about to be the sun, but he became Saturn. He became the vizier of the sun. So in the next round, Saturn graduates into his own simulation, his own little game that he will play. And souls will come and souls will work and souls will gain experience. So matter may evolve and return to source again. And then again and again, till Saturn becomes a solar system. Saturn becomes a Milky Way. Saturn becomes a nebulae. Saturn becomes a quasar. The diamond of Saturn is forever expanding. And that is what we are here to do. Provide that support. So we may also gravitate and one day become Saturns of a solar system. One day, of course, we have to become the moon. And we have to become Venus. We have to become Mars. So all of these are stages of evolution of the soul, and the soul gravitates and gravitates and moves up and up and up, and all of this is one soul, okay, one consciousness, but it adds to the kitty, it adds to the information. And then, astronomers are now postulating that there is no dark energy. All of this is information, and information has mass. Information has mass. So it's literally astounding as to why we need to do astrology. It's we need to connect to the diamond of the planet. And if you have a strong Jupiter, help Jupiter. If you have a strong Venus, help Venus. If you have a weak Venus like me, still help Venus. It's her day to day. Try to work to her towards her archetype, and you will be able to balance that planet that is debilitated or afflicted. The true knowledge of astrology lies giving, in giving to the world soul, in giving to all the planets above, in giving to all of creation. The more you give, the more you get. It's abundance, pure abundance. You will be Saturn sooner. And imagine the amount of responsibility. Imagine how the sun has to feed all of the solar system of energy. He has to do his work. He has to rise. He has to be engaged. So, I mean, it's a game far more complex than what we take astrology for, dating and sun sign and moon sign. It's all great. It's amazing because the entry point must be somewhere. But what is the true scope of astrology? This is the true scope of astrology. Truly giving to the solar system with your open heart. Give to Saturn that he is in Aquarius. May he do his job well. May he succeed at what he set out. He just met Jupiter, so he's got a whole bunch of ideas and he's got this crazy things he needs to implement. Let's help him. That's my message. That's why I'm a true mouthpiece of the stars. For I know the true purpose. That is why I come here and I make all this content without really systematically engaging in it like a YouTube content creator. Because, everything to me, it comes in downloads from these planets. It's what they want you to know. And it's time. Some of you are ready to know. Some of you are ready to connect. Some of you are ready to help, to usher in the true age of Aquarius, to usher in Shambhala in the physical reality. So this was longer than I expected. I just take a topic and I should stick to it, but then I bifurcate. Like I said, if I work 7 days a week, 8 to 9 hours a day, and make content like this, and I mean I live like at least 30 years I dedicate, I don't think I will still finish. So there's a lot to be said. There are a lot of downloads that are happening. There's a correct way to approach astrology. There's a correct way to approach reality. There's a correct way to approach love. I'm not saying my way is the correct way, but I'm just saying this is a way of giving back to the planets, to raising your vibrations so you may give. You don't need to ask. You will not believe the kind of abundance you will be blessed with. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe, share, spread my word. If you like me as the mouthpiece of the stars are also, waiting for others to wake up. So, and stars are, the planets are wanderers and the stars are the storytellers. So we've got the wanderers and the storytellers, and it's a crazy saga that is happening, and that we are lucky to observe the magnificence of the cosmos, and that is the age of Aquarius. So thank you so much and speak soon. Bye.